So I've got a lot of thoughts about this. According to Henry Abbott, Lillard in days to come plans to request a trade. Now, first of all, he's earned it. He's been there 9 years. I believe stars. LeBron gives the Cavs 7 years. You can't get him a bona fide number 2. You got to go. Portland has never really gotten him a great 2. They've got a 3 to a 4 in C.J. McCollum. Good player, very nice player, but they need another star. They couldn't get it for him. This is also the way this needed to work. Dame is so popular and so committed and so beloved and has been so loyal, he has to initiate the trade. It has to be clear and definitive. I am requesting a trade. And you'll have your meatball fans, your fanboys, your pom-pom wavers won't get it. But this is the way it has to be. Dame has to come out and say, hey, I want a trade. And he'll take a hit for 48 hours, 72 hours. There's always those resentful fans who don't appreciate great players like Dame. But he has to do this because he's too popular for a GM to trade him. Dame has to lead this. It takes courage. That's what Melo did in Denver. It's what LeBron's done. The star player, it's what Dwight Howard did in Orlando. The star player has to demand this trade, and he takes the hit for it. Anthony Davis took the hit for it, but in the end, who gives a rip if some fan you'll never meet is unhappy with you on Reddit? Who cares? So Dame has to do this. Now, the second part of this, they are going to have 25 to 30 teams that are interested. It's a shooter's league. He's unbelievable. He's totally committed. He plays hard every night. A little bit of a defensive liability. So is Steph Curry. You don't get everything, okay? So now Portland needs to make a decision because Philadelphia is going to come hard. Boston's going to come hard. The Knicks are going to come hard. Dallas is going to come hard. The Clippers are going to come hard. I think the Lakers should go after him and trade AD. That's just my opinion. So let's just talk about what Portland can do. So does Portland want to remain viable? Still be a playoff team? Because it's hard. Portland doesn't have a baseball team. They don't have an NHL team. They don't have an NFL. They got a basketball team. This is what they got. Are you ready to go into the dumper and rebuild for 4 years? Are you ready? Because all those great Phoenix players you see in the finals, those young guys, were in the crapper for several years before Chris Paul got there. Are you ready to go there? That's certainly a viable option. If you're ready to totally rebuild, and I know this is terrifying, and I would lose sleep if I was a GM, do you call up Golden State, get both their lottery picks, and James Wiseman, and Andrew Wiggins? You'd have to take Wiggins for the contracts. So you basically say, we're going to be lousy, but we are building our future. This is a great draft. The top 4 players in this draft are all going to be all-stars. Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, Mobley from USC, Cade Cunningham, Oklahoma State. This is a great draft. Your first 4 guys are all-stars, could be more. So do you want to go to Golden State, give them Dame, Clay, Steph, terrifying? I'd throw up in my mouth. They're going to walk back into your facility, drop 90 between the 3 of them. It's going to be awful. It's going to be the most talked about team in the league. It's going to get discussed in your city. It's going to be awful for 3 years. You're going to be bad. They're going to be great, and they'll probably win a championship. But you're going to get 2 lottery picks. You're going to get James Wiseman, who would be a lottery pick. He'd be the first, second, or third pick this year. Your future's set. Your future is set, and you get Andrew Wiggins, who for a year, C.J. McCollum, Andrew Wiggins, you got bigs. You'll be but then you're going to have to move Wiseman. You're going to probably have to move Wiggins out, and it's a rebuild. That you take the Wiggins contract and move it. It's not a long-term thing. So are you ready to do that? So Golden State is an option if you're just ready to get a bunch of kids. Or the Clippers. Now, before you roll your eyes at this, consider the Clippers. Paul George and Dame. Oh, come on, Colin. Time out. You're not going to get another guy as good as Dame. You tell me the last time an A-plus got traded for an A-plus. I'm waiting. It doesn't happen. What you could get with Paul George is an A-plus in Dame and an A- in Paul George. By the way, Paul George, for about a 5-week stretch in the regular season this year after the All-Star game, was arguably the best player in the league. You watch them in the playoffs. He is a really, really good player. He's not Dame, but he's great. He's also, he averages 21 a game in the NBA. Dame averages 25. He's also a bigger athlete than Dame. He's also a significantly better defensive player. Paul George is a top 10 defensive player in the league. He's long, he's committed, he's strong. He's not Dame, but he's darn good. And the Clippers probably have to throw in another player. And you'd have CJ McCollum, 23 a game, Paul George, 20, 21 a game, and Portland's got good bigs. You're a playoff team. And you probably get another starter in the deal. That you're viable. Are you a championship team? Doubt it, but you're viable. Or do you want to go the Golden State way and just give us kids? We're going to be awful for 3 years. The Warriors are going to be amazing. They're going to be the talk of the league. We're going to have to not watch, turn the television off. And those are just two of the options. Because remember, if Dame goes to Miami with Jimmy Butler, and Pat Riley is on the phone this morning, that changes the trajectory of that franchise. If Dame goes to Boston with Jason Tatum, and the Celtics are going to be on the phone this morning, I mean, they'd win the East, right? Jimmy Butler and Dame would win the East. Jason Tatum and Dame would win the East, or certainly be in the conversation. Luka in Dallas, Mark Cuban, terrified that Luka will not sign long-term. Luka Dame, I'm sorry, but that's two of the four most explosive offensive players in the league, right? So this really comes down to what's Portland want to be. Do they want to watch? Because Golden State has got 2 lottery picks in a strong draft, and they'd give you Wiseman. That's your future. You got your future big, 2 young stars in the draft full of shooters, guards, playmakers. By the way, Philadelphia is also, Daryl Morey is going to call Portland. Now, Philadelphia is a team that is getting discussed a lot. I would be very, very careful if I was Portland on Philadelphia. So what you're hearing, Daryl Morey would love this deal. Embiid and Damian Lillard, you win the East. You are in the finals. That one I won't even argue. Miami and Boston, I think you could be. Embiid and Dame and Tobias Harris, you are in the finals. So Daryl Morey is going to try to make that deal. Here's where I'd be very, very reluctant if I'm Portland. So Dame is committed. He plays every night. He is a great teammate. Ben Simmons is indifferent and arrogant and aloof. He'll never be loved by Portland like Dame. The optics, aesthetics are not good. Dame makes everybody better. Everybody loves him. Totally committed. Loves basketball. Ben Simmons is cool, aloof, indifferent, kind of arrogant. I don't like that. I don't like the optics. The second thing is, if you trade for Ben Simmons, Philadelphia can offer you a bunch of long athletes. They've got all sorts of wings that can't shoot. Ben Simmons can't shoot. If you trade with Philadelphia and they start throwing long athletic guys and Thibault and Ben Simmons, don't get me wrong, you will be the best defensive team in the West. But you will have such a shooting deficit. Let me give you an example. So let's say you get Ben Simmons and Thibault, who's a wing, went to the University of Washington, great defensive player, and Simmons, great defensive player for Dame. No question, you have gone from an average defensive team, below average, to excellent. But now CJ McCollum faces the other team's best defender. CJ McCollum averages 23 a game. He's not as good as Paul George, who averages 20, but Paul George on his teams often faces a very elite defender. In the playoffs, with Kawhi Leonard out, Paul George faced your best defender. In Indianapolis, he faced your best defender. In Oklahoma City, your best wing defender. But if Dame leaves Portland and Ben Simmons came, then CJ McCollum, a good player, a B-plus player, now faces your best 6'6" or under defensive player. So CJ McCollum's efficiency, if you trade with Philadelphia, dips, and I get no shooting back. So now in the West, you can't win the West on defense. You got to have offense in the West. You can win the East on defense. Philadelphia, very good. Milwaukee's in the finals. Milwaukee's got one guy that can shoot. So you can win the East just on defense. I mean, Toronto, That very big, very strong, very good defense. Milwaukee, mostly defense, tough, strong bullies. You can get to the fight. In the West, you got to score points. There's just too many good young players. So if you make this trade with Philadelphia, you get Simmons and Thibault. They're long, they're athletic, they're good NBA players. You got two guys who could be all NBA defense for the next 7 years. But now McCollum carries the offensive load. I mean, you take Steph Curry away from the Warriors, and Klay Thompson now draws the number one defensive assignment. Klay's efficiency goes down. So Philadelphia can give you a lot of interesting pieces. I don't know. Golden State gives you the future. The Clippers give you viability today. Don't kid yourself. Paul George, CJ McCollum, Portland's bigs, and maybe the Clippers throw in another top bench guy. That's a playoff team. That's a playoff team. CJ McCollum averages 23, Paul George 20-21. Nurkic is a really good player when he's healthy. That's a good basketball team, even in the West. So this is league changing. This is league altering. You do not get A+ for A+. You got to get out of that. These Portland fans, well, Paul George. What the hell are you talking about? Paul George is a top 15 player in the league. He may be 15th. Maybe he's the 16th. I mean, he's up there. That's as good as you're going to get. Then you got to get pieces. How does he fit? Can I get another bench player or a starter or a draft pick? I don't think the Clippers have much draft capital. They gave it all up to get Kawhi and Paul, right? Love days like today. Seriously. I used to do Portland local radio. If I did local radio today, I'd just literally say, all right, cancel all the other shows. Let's go 9 hours, phone calls, Damian Lillard. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.